You can also catch Good Things in podcast form wherever you listen to podcasts. And now we're turning our attention to Scott Burns. He is the founder and CEO of 7 Days for the Troops, and they are always up to good things for our veterans, and now is no different. So, hey, Scott.
Good morning or good afternoon.
Well, it's, you know what, Scott, it's multiple times of the day, depending on, how you feel or when you woke up. But you guys are working hard right now for a particular veteran who found themselves with their home destroyed during the tornado. So set the stage for us. How did this, well, I know how it went down with the weather, but how did you get connected with this veteran?
Well, I put a post on Facebook right after the tornado hit and was just hoping that, maybe somebody would reach out and they needed some supplies or something we could help with, on a small level. And I had someone tell me that they knew of this 90-year-old veteran, Mr. Robert Pyron, that lived in Winona, whose home was completely destroyed by the tornado, and wanted to know if I had any connections to be able to help him. And before I knew what I had done, I committed to assuring him that we would do what we could to get him in a new tiny home. And so we started that process and started working with the Purple Heart Homes group, and they agreed to do the tiny home for us. And we've got it in the process. We just had to raise $50,000 of the $75,000 that it would cost to make it happen. And right now we're sitting at $35,000 raised, so only have to raise $15,000 more to get him in this tiny home.
So let's back up. What's the veteran's name, Scott?
Robert Pyron.
Mr. Robert. So was Mr. Robert living alone whenever the tornado struck, or does he have someone that was living with him? I mean, at 90 years wise, I would assume that, living alone would be scary in itself.
That's correct. And he lived by himself. He has a puppy or a dog, and his dog lives with him. But basically, what it happened is he heard that there was the storm coming. He did not realize how bad it was going to be, so he was sitting in his living room when the storm came through, and it literally picked his house up, turned it a couple of inches, and then set it over about 6 inches.
He was in it?
Yeah, he was in it, sitting in his recliner with his puppy in his lap.
It's a miracle that he's still with us.
It is, and what's even crazier, there's a guy that lives right up the road from him that does electrical, and he knew his specialty was going to be needed, and so he went home to pick up his tools, and as he was getting ready to leave, he actually smelled propane. And he knew that Mr. Pyron had a propane tank, so he just kind of shined his lights down there, and that's when he noticed that his house had shifted. And so he went and kicked in the doors to check on Mr. Pyron and get him out of the house.
Does he have any family in Winona? Where's Mr. Pyron staying right now?
He's staying with a friend who has a home, a cabin that he's letting him stay in. His family lives up in the Tupelo area. And so they made a trip every day for the last couple of weeks, going down trying to help him save what they could out of the house. But what happened was they ended up having to completely destroy burn the house down because it was too damaged to be able to save. And this is the home that Mr. Pyron actually
built,
was born in, lived in all of his life, and he lost all of that.
I saw this. This went viral on, I'm just putting this together, Scott. This went viral on Facebook. I think it was his granddaughter may have been with him as they sat and sort of allowed him to watch all of the memories, all of the things, be demolished the way it needed to be due to the fact that it was no longer safe. And if I remember correctly, he was basically just joyful to be alive, that he had everything he needed, made it out alive. His dog, himself, obviously he still had his intact family, was unharmed, and you could just sense the appreciation that he had for life. And so, man, it's a small world. I wouldn't have connected those two without that, Scott.
Well, and that's him. And the thing is when we started talking about helping him, I mean, he's like, hey, if you can just get me a camper to live in, that would be good enough. And we, as our organization, one, didn't feel that was safe, but two, at 90 years old, climbing in and out of a camper, even if you put a pretty good wheelchair ramp or a ramp on it, we just felt like he deserved to be in a home on his property for as long as he can be there.
So give us the background on Purple Heart Homes. This is an organization that this is sort of their ministry and their mission, but share with us who you're partnering with.
Well, Purple Heart Homes is a group out of Statesville, North Carolina that I have, over the past probably 9 years, been involved with, because they go in and their mission used to be where they just went in and made a house handicap accessible, and it was widened doorways. And a couple of years ago, they found a veteran that lived in his own house, but there was no way to repair it. I mean, it was a shack. And so they built their very first tiny home for him. And since then, they found that there was a great need for veterans that were possibly homeless or just didn't have a large footprint home and didn't really need that, kind of like Mr. Pyron doesn't need a large house. He just needs somewhere to call home. And so they started building on site, on their property there in Statesville, North Carolina, these tiny homes, and then they ship them out across the country to help veterans.
How big will his home be? I mean, a tiny home, but do we know the footprint of it?
As far as I know, it's like an 800-square-foot home. It's going to have a kitchen, a dining room, a bedroom, a bathroom, and it's going to come, what we're hoping is it comes with a washer and the washer dryer, the refrigerator, and a stove. But my goal and my mission between now and the 17th of May, when we'd like to have him moved into the house, that when he walks in the door, it is fully furnished. The pantries are going to be stocked with groceries. The only thing that he's really going to have to purchase at that point is his clothing and any little, whatnots that he wants. But our goal is to have the house completely furnished when we hand him the keys to it.
And how can we help, Scott?
Well, one of the ways, of course, is we're $15,000 away from having it funded. And then if people will follow my Facebook page, we have a plan to, when that house crosses the state line to come into Mississippi, we would like a motorcycle escort from the state line to Mr. Pyron's front door, or what would be his new front door. And so we want this not to just be, hey, we're going to take and hand him a house. We want to show him the love and support of the community in the state of Mississippi, that we appreciate his service to this country. He was in the Army during the Korean War. He actually served in Germany during the Korean War, but then he also was on the Highway Patrol, and so he's had a lifetime of service. And I just want to show him the respect that he deserves and give back to him the best way we can.
Pamela in Biloxi, how do we donate? And the easiest way, I think, would be just 7 days for the troops.org. And then you would have all the information there, correct, Scott?
That is the easiest way to donate right there. And I mean, you can find out more information about 7 days for the troops and what our mission is. And, I mean, you and I have talked a couple of times over the years, and we normally have a big event that we do in July that would completely fund this project. But I can't wait till July to get him in a home. And so we've got a big mission, but Mississippi is very giving, and I think that we can have the money raised by the 17th of May with no problem. And
someone mentioned a motorcycle ride. You're hoping to get a motorcycle escort to bring Mr. Pyron's house back to Winona as it crosses the state lines. Can they go to 7 days for the troops.org or your Facebook page if they are interested in being part of the motorcycle parade or I don't say ride, but yes, ride?
They can, and I'm going to give out my phone number. It is 662-401-3349. 662-401-3349. They can call me, and we're working on the details because we want to get as much information out there as possible as soon as possible. But we're working on the timeline of when that's supposed to hit the state line and timing and all that. But I've had someone with a Jeep organization that's working on trying to get their Jeep group to help escort it in. And
well, Scott, as you have more information, you keep us updated here on Good Things, and we'll get you back before the 17th for sure, okay?
I like it. I appreciate
right.
you having me on.
Absolutely, and that's 7 daysforthetroops.org. Stick with us. We got more for you coming up next.